Jessica Giannino, and I'm here with Chris Mancini, Executive Director of Save the Harbor, Save the Bay. And today we're here to talk a little bit about Save the Harbor, the Beaches Commission, and its connection with the City of Revere. Hey, Chris.
Morning, Commissioner.
Thank you so much for joining me today. We're so happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm really excited to introduce you to the residents of Revere. You do so much work for the community, and I think you're a perfect example of someone that's behind the scenes, and I want them to get to know who you are and what it is that you do in our community. So please, before we get into the commission and Save the Harbor, tell us about you.
Me? Oh, you want to know about me? I'm the Executive Director of Save the Harbor, Save the Bay. I've been with the organization since 2017. I started as the Vice President of Operations there, and our longtime amazing President, Patty Foley, retired, and I was really excited to kind of step into the role. I got into kind of environmental work for a kind of a weird reason. I started to really enjoy seafood, and I was like, I want to try all of you. You're all delicious. But I lived in upstate New York, and the Hudson River was very dirty at the time. You couldn't eat the fish there really. So I was like, that'll be my goal. I want to clean these places up so we can have more options on the menu.
Well, that's a great example. When you look at a place like Boston Harbor and what that was when I was growing up in Boston to Boston Harbor today, and a huge part of that is because of the work of Save the Harbor and so many other organizations that we have a clean harbor that you can swim in, right?
You can swim in and you can eat from. It's one of the most amazing environmental turnaround stories in our country.
Yeah, we're very lucky. So before we get into the work of the commission, and I'm really excited to serve on that commission in my role as state rep and up at the State House, tell us a little bit about Save the Harbor, Save the Bay, its mission, and why the City of Revere is involved.
Yeah, well, like you already referenced, we were founded almost 40 years ago as a grassroots effort to advocate for the cleanup of Boston Harbor. And the founders were the judge who heard the original case, the reporter who brought the story, the city solicitor from Quincy, Bill Golden, who first filed some of these court cases, and a community advocate. So we have these four amazing founders. They said, we're going to make sure this gets done. And so 1986, the work started, and by the late 90s, the Deer Island sewage treatment plant was built, and the 300 million gallons of sewage a day that were going into the harbor are now, to this day, getting cleaned, and we have swimmable, boatable, fishable waters here in the Bay State, right? Imagine being called the Bay State and not being able to use the bay. So the mission was to protect and restore the resource. And once we did that, it was to start sharing that resource, because even to this day, people have not always the right impression. We have the cleanest urban beaches in this area. Revere is right near the top of that list, not only being America's first public beach, but being one of the cleanest urban beaches in the country. And we do everything we can. Free boat cruises for youth groups. We have a bunch of groups from Revere that come down. We go out to the Harbor Islands all summer long. And I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but our Better Beaches program. Fun fact, we, Save the Harbor and the state gave one of the original grants that helped start the Revere sand sculpting event.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty amazing how your organization has grown in the last, several decades, from really taking a problem and finding a solution to transforming that into programming and resources. And something in my time with the organization has been focused around accessibility and resources, and making sure that our beaches are accessible. And in my role now at the State House on the Children and Families Committee, I've learned accessibility is so much more than just physical accessibility. It's language accessibility. It's making sure that our beaches are welcoming, and all of our public spaces. And this work on the commission, I know for me, has been really eye-opening, and working and sitting through public hearings and really taking in what people's impressions of our beaches are. And I think a perfect example is some of the work that we did last year on the commission regarding our signage. I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that mission and some of the outcomes.
Well, I want to go back a little bit. The Metropolitan Beaches Commission, of which you are one of the illustrious, one of the very active and proactive commissioners. it was 2008, this commission started, and it runs from Nahant and Lynn down to Nantasket in Hull, and we really cover Save the Harbor manages the commission, but it's really the legislators and the community reps from all the different communities who are the driving that forward. You know, you all know the beaches, you know your communities, and the 25 or so folks are tasked with making findings and recommendations, keeping a close eye on the beaches. How can we keep improving these? These are the state beaches, by the way, that are managed by the Department of Conservation and Recreation. And, you know, it's everything from, we do these public hearings and we talk to the commissioners and we say, oh, gosh, you know, there's not enough trash cans, actually. So we got to maybe talk to the state and talk to DCR about making sure there's a couple more trash cans. That was some of the early day stuff, right? And as we've really gotten a lot of the infrastructure solid, obviously that's ongoing with maintenance. We talked about the bandstand and things like that. It was really what you just said. How do we make people feel like these really do belong to them? You know, most of these places, Revere included, are cities. They're urban areas. Not everyone's got an acre of lawn, or even, you know, much more than a postage stamp in all these folks. The beach really is our backyard, and we want people to feel that ownership, so that it's like, I can just get there. And that's when we say accessibility, we mean that in a lot of different ways. You know, from ADA related accessibility. How can someone who maybe has mobility challenge, is in a wheelchair or something, can spontaneously show up and use the beach? And that's why we have great partnership with the Universal Access Program at DCR, and we communicate a lot because, again, we really are the experts, and I say that we very broadly, say, you know, there aren't enough floating wheelchairs, or the mobility mats aren't close enough together, and making sure that those things are really upkept. Two, like you said, the language accessibility. We have this great pledge, and I just spoke with the deputy DCR commissioner the other day, and they are going to have multilingual welcome signs out on all the beaches, including Revere, by this beach season. So, you know, we think that's kind of important because it's a small thing, you know, to say welcome or bienvenidos or whatever in a number of different languages, just to indicate you're walking by with your family. Maybe English isn't your first language, and you go, wow, that's my native language. That's my beach. Oh, great, that's fantastic. And that's just one step. Obviously, it's informational as well, but really trying to be proactive about that type of thing.
I think that's fantastic, and I think, you know, what I love about the work on the commission is seeing the tangible results. Yeah. You know, we talk about accessibility, we talk about wheelchairs, we talk about mats, and then through our partnerships with organizations like the DCR, they're happening, right? And I think we're really lucky to have the representation we have, specifically in the North Shore, and I'm a little biased, but we have on the House side Chairman Adrian Montero from East Boston, and on the Senate side, Chairman Brendan Crichton from Lynn, who also represents Saugus, which I have a part of, chairing the commission. So I think we're really lucky to have advocates and champions like them representing our community, because especially being kind of nestled in the middle in Revere, they get it. You know, they're seeing the same issues in East Boston, they're seeing the same issues in Lynn, and our community's border. So when I express our problems that we're having in Revere or some challenges that we're facing on, you know, that first nice summer day, they're seeing it in East Boston, they're seeing it in Lynn. It's not a unique challenge in Revere. So I think it's really great to be able to bring us all together to talk about many different issues, right? From accessibility to safety to making sure our beaches are more welcoming to what I think is super important, and that's programming. And that's something that Save the Harbor does so well.
And that's really been the key, you know, a big part of the Metropolitan Beaches Commission and your role is this partnership with what we call the Better Beaches program. And the state provides some money, a pretty good amount of money, and then we do a fundraiser. I know you've been there, you've been a key part of it, called the JetBlue Shamrock Splash. It'll be on March 10th this year, and you can do it wherever you want. We do a big gathering in East Boston these days where we plunge into the cold, clean waters of Boston Harbor, and we raise additional funds. And we grant all that money right back out. So it ends up being over $300,000 in $1,000 to $8,000 grants. And those grants are open right now. So if the viewers, you know, have an idea and you want to do a small or middle-sized event, whether that's a yoga class or maybe a small pop-up concert or something like that, that's going to bring the people you know and make them feel welcome on the beach. And like I said, we do the sandcastle competition. They are obviously that's really gone the way we hope all the events will go. That's really outgrown into it's this massive success. But getting that programming, as long as it's free and open to the public, you can bring it to us, and we work really closely with the DCR permitting office, who are really helpful to make sure we can get these things off the ground. But I think this last summer we had a series of yoga classes. We had a beach blanket market, so vendors came out, and instead of stands, it was blankets with like the art and things that they would have down by Shork Beach, and so doing things, putting people in places really to indicate and show that this is active, this is welcoming. Come on down.
Well, and I think one of my favorite things about this organization is not only do you do so many wonderful things to give back and to raise that money, but the process is so much fun.
Yeah.
So the JetBlue Shamrock Splash is one of my favorite events that I've been involved in. And, from experience, I got involved in the middle of the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So my first splash was in 2020.
Oh, 2021, because 2020 we did the actual splash about 4 days before everything shut down.
So 2021, and it was virtual.
Yeah.
So I signed up, we did our fundraising, and then we splashed in Revere Beach.
Yeah.
So we did a video splashing in Revere
Ricky.
Beach. Yeah, me and Ricky. And we had a great time, and then we're able to join everybody else in the following years. And it's fun being able to, do your own thing and splash wherever you want. And of course, I love Revere Beach, I'm biased. But I think being with everyone on Constitution Beach and running out to get your duck and that little competition on the beach, and it's not as cold when you're jumping in with everyone else, right? It's a little more fun, and there's just so much going on, and I think it's really a great event for a really great cause.
Well, we say it might be cold for a moment, but it doesn't compare to the warm feeling that lasts from doing something for a good cause. And I was actually just talking to Carol Haney, the former representative, community representative on the commissioner, and she's been doing the splash since it started, and we were just talking about that, it is so fun, and you can win JetBlue flights, the biggest fundraiser. We have a costume contest, so there's all different ways. JetBlue's a really great partner, and we're working with a couple other folks this year. Tito's Vodka is Dorchester Brewing Company.
It's great, and I think it's great that so many local companies are involved to really show their support of the Better Beaches program and of the programming and the work that you guys are doing on our beaches. So I hope to see more friendly faces and familiar Revere faces out for the splash this year.
Come out.
I'll be freezing on the beach.
We're looking for a food partner. So
great.
Anyone who's willing to maybe give us a little break on the price or wants to be a featured donor slash vendor for the food, something easy to eat after coming out of the ocean in March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to keep in mind. We'll have to think some good Revere connections. We have
empanadas or quesadillas, something like that.
Well, we have so many wonderful restaurants in Revere. I know there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah. So if you're listening, I think my info is up on the screen at some point. Just send me a note.
Absolutely. And I think we'll definitely have to connect you too with the Revere Chamber of Commerce. There's so many different
fantastic.
Local businesses and local restaurants that are always involved, especially with great causes like this. And already you're doing things on Revere Beach and you're involved in Revere Beach. And I'll tell you something that's so exciting. I was down the beach this weekend in the winter. And I think it's so great that now we're having programming that goes year round. And I know this one was a little different. It wasn't necessarily associated with Save the Harbor, but the Ice Castle Festival,
the Winter
Wonderland.
Yeah, it was amazing.
We have programming on the beach year round now. Yeah. So I think the fact that we're breaking out of the box of, the beach is a place that you go in the summertime, that's so wonderful. It's a place that you can enjoy that open space year round. It might be a little colder, but definitely still a place you can enjoy with your family.
Yeah.
So bringing it back a little bit, something that I'm excited about is, I know in my time at the State House, we've never hosted a Beaches Commission hearing in Revere. We might have in the past under former reps, I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
But can you tell us a little bit about what's going to be happening in Revere and what residents can expect and what this means?
Yeah, so we're working on implementing the recommendations the Commission made over the last couple of years. Really great partnership with the relatively new, although not new anymore, DCR Commissioner. Some of you may have heard of him. What's his name again? Is it former Mayor Brian Arrigo, I think? I think we're very lucky to have him in this role. He gets the beach. He's come from the place which has America's first public beach and understands that local aspect and that state level aspect. It's been a really great partnership.
Mm-hmm.
But we are going to be starting, so we're working with them to implement those accessibility recommendations, but we're starting some community-based workshops to kind of get a sense from folks who live or visit near the water. What do you value about the beach? We're starting to see, I think, more and more evidence, more and more frequent storms, right? Wasn't it just a week ago or so that we had flooding? I know I live just north of here in Swampscott and Lynn border, and the roads were flooded, the storms are hitting. If things are going to be changing, what do we value about the beach, and how can we adapt our thinking, our policies, maybe even our infrastructure to those changing circumstances? So fingers crossed, we don't have to lose our beaches, especially in a place like Revere where it's such a part of the identity.
I think that's such a great point. And I think when you think about how our communities have experienced these storm surges historically, when you look back, the blizzard of '78 was a big one-time occurrence that people had never seen before and dealt with the repercussions of that storm in a way that had never been dreamed of. Now we're having these massive storm surges and these massive flooding occurrences several times a year. So our residents in our coastal communities, especially in the Point of Pines, in Riverside, in the Ballard Street area, in Saugus, and the majority of my district is around Rumney Marsh. Right? It's flooding.
Yeah.
It's flooding more frequently than ever. And I think it's really important that we're talking about climate change and climate resiliency on the Commission and how our beaches play a huge part of that. Revere's a barrier beach.
Absolutely.
So important in how our barrier beaches impact the rest of our community and our communities that go further inland.
Yeah, especially in a place like Revere where it is a barrier beach, that it's a resource that's going to affect the entire community. Not just, can I keep going to the beach, but will without that beach there, what happens to the rest of the city? We're also really lucky to have Rumney Marsh here, as you said. The marshes are a key tool. It's so lucky that it's still here. It hasn't been completely paved over like in a lot of other places, and to really use those nature-based solutions to act as a sponge or to adapt to those tides and those storms.
Absolutely, and I know it's interesting when you travel in the South. You talk about in Florida how they have like the natural mangroves and how those are so important when it comes to kind of calming the water before it approaches the land and protecting the shores from erosion and from waves. I don't think we realize how important our natural salt marshes are, not just for erosion and for our storms, for carbon sequestration, but for so many different issues that they just absorb every single day that we don't even realize.
Right.
And Revere's surrounded. We have, Belle Isle to our north. We have Rumney Marsh to our north, Belle Isle to our south. Gotta get my directions in order. But we're surrounded by marshes and oceans. We really are, smack dab in the middle.
Well, we keep saying, we don't want to have to imagine a Bay State without beaches. We're a coastal resource. Think of all the places that we identify with those types of resources and what they'd be without the waterfront.
So true. So with the Commission hearing coming up in Revere on March 14th, what do residents need to know and how can they get involved?
Yeah, well, we're going to do a series of hearings in all our coastal communities, but like you said, the Revere hearing is, or workshop, these are workshops. We're going to be doing it March 14th. It's from 5 to 8 p.m. At the City Council chambers. And we want to hear from people. Again, it's a bit of a tricky balancing act. We're not necessarily saying, hey, show up and tell us how to stop sea level rise. We're going to be asking, what's important to you about the marsh or the beach? What do you do? How do you use it? What we're going to try to do from that, working with our policy and science teams, is making kind of recommendations back to the Commission and back to each community as well. Here's the ways you could think about approaching this on a middle to longer term basis. This isn't about necessarily, gosh, the next storm's coming in 2 weeks, we're going to build a huge flood barrier. That's not feasible, right? But we're saying, what do you value about this, and how do we approach this in the long term? And I'll just give you an extreme example. I'm not advocating for this in Revere or even like a dense area like Massachusetts, but there's a place just south of San Diego called Imperial Beach. And they had these conversations. Their entire economy is based around their beach. They said, this is a priority. We've got to make sure this beach is here forever. And because of the projections and the data and the science they have, what they've started doing is the city has begun, when someone puts their house in the market or someone passes away and the house goes up, if it's in a certain zone, the city is purchasing those properties at market rate with the plan of allowing the beach to encroach inward. Because they don't want to end up in a situation where they're like, well, we've got to build a seawall, and eventually then the water just comes up and there's no more beach. Because they go, well, then we're Imperial Beach, and without that, who are we? Now, again, that's an extreme example. I'm not saying, that's what happens here in Massachusetts, but some version. Where we hear from people, what do you love? What do you need? What do you want your grandchildren to experience that you've experienced? And then it's not a simple math problem. It's going to take some thinking and some analysis. But by the end of this year, we hope to have those early ideas, and again, making those recommendations. And they might be policy, they might be financial, they might be science, they might be infrastructure recommendations. And it might be different for Revere than it is for South Boston or for Quincy.
Absolutely, but I think it's important that we're talking about it, because the other really important thing is the majority of the homes and the land that's developed, on our beaches were never intended to be permanent. Right. These were summer cottages. Yeah. These were, vacation homes that over the years have become permanent. This was reclaimed land. Right. That was marshland that we filled in that is now, being reclaimed again. If you look at what's happening in our islands in Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, the cliffs are eroding at a rate that we've never seen before. Right. So even though we're talking about, California being so far away, it's happening here. The Cape and Islands are losing homes. Right. We're thankfully not there yet, but it's definitely something we need to think about. And I think a big conversation we've had in the city of Revere is, what is the solution? How do we combine nature-based solutions like vegetative berms with physical solutions like improving our seawalls and getting the Army Corps to come back in and look at things that they haven't looked at in years? Right. And I think, between the work of the Commission and Save the Harbor and the city and the state, we can have those conversations and get the attention of our federal delegation to come in and say, hey, this is a priority. This beach is important, and this is why. This is our economy. These are our fishermen that fish off the shores of Revere Beach. This is our vitality for our restaurant industry, our hospitality industry. It all is centered around Boston Harbor and our beaches. Yeah. Especially in a city like this, where, like you said, Revere Beach is so iconic. It's one of the only public beaches that's so easily accessible by T. This is the destination for. I don't have the numbers, but I don't know. Like when you want to go to the beach, no matter where you are, you can get on the T in the greater Boston area, and you can get to Revere. You can walk off the T and be on a towel in the water within minutes. That's not the case. The only other one with that type of proximity is Constitution in East Boston. It's a much smaller beach, but great beach as well. But everywhere else, you got to drive, you got to walk a half a mile, you got to take a shuttle. There's nothing like this, and it's evident by the amount of people that come down every summer. Those first days of summer, coming down to 1 million people come to the Sandcastle event. That's iconic, and that's the identity. And I think the way it's changing is so important too. 10 years ago, if you came to Revere Beach, you had a few pizza shacks and ice cream places and minimal restaurants. Now, the number of restaurants you can visit, there's a hotel on Revere Beach that you can stay at overnight, whether you're coming from, New England, or if you're a Revere resident that just wants a staycation, you can stay on Revere Beach, which I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. It's pretty amazing. We almost don't even have to have the hearing. People are telling us their values and what they value just by what we're seeing, right? Yeah. By that exact trajectory. It's very, very, very true. Well, I think that, there's so many different things that we interface with between working together on the state, on the Better Beaches Commission, and Save the Harbor, Save the Bay. And I think that, the general theme I'm hearing this year is accessibility. We're talking about climate change and resiliency. Yeah. If there was a message that you had for Revere residents about people watching that want to get involved.
Yeah.
What is the best way that they can get involved with Save the Harbor and some of the things that are going to be happening in Revere?
Yeah, we'll give you 3 tiers, and you know, it's get actively involved with us. Come out to the hearing on March 14th. We would really like to hear from everybody, from as many different people, from as different walks of life. Whether you live on the beach, you know, you'll probably be more keen on doing that. But if you come once or twice a year, you know, how do you experience the beach with your friends and your family? Do you bring everybody down once a year? Do you come every weekend? Are you there for those morning walks? Are you there for the parties at night? You know, and the restaurants. We want to know what the important things are to folks. Take it up another level. Apply for a grant with Save the Harbor. You know, put your own spin on things. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're going to do that, you might as well sign up for the Shamrock Splash and raise some money. And of course, you know, if that's all that's too much, just come down to the beach. You know, check the Save the Harbor website. It's going to list. We did over 200 events last year. Every day of the summer, you could find a free event on one of the beaches, and many of those days we're out here in Revere. So come on down. There was the new pop-up beach equipment library that was at LL Bean put up last summer. We helped, and you helped, and the DCR helped get that up there. You can come down. You can just use a chair. You can use what else do they have in there? Cornhole. They had umbrellas,
everything.
It's a lending library. You come, you use it. We just asked you. It's an honor system thing. You know, put it back when you're done, so other people can use it. But yeah, come. The more people that come to the events that we're doing, you know, the better it looks when we come back and do our fundraising and go to the legislature and the governor and say, hey, you should keep investing in these programs.
Well, I'll tell you that library program was great for someone like me that doesn't want to bring the sand from the beach back into their car.
Right.
So it's great that you can use a chair and lend it and then put it right back in the box, and all that sand stays on the beach and doesn't come home with you.
Yeah, we need the sand on the beach anyway.
It's very true. But no, I'm so excited about the work that you're doing on Save the Harbor, Save the Bay. I'm so excited about the work that we're doing together on the commission, and I think that it's really important that Revere residents know what's happening, because Revere Beach is for everyone in Revere. You know, I know how important it is to the people that live on the beach and near the beach, but it's for everyone in Revere. It's a resource for people like me that live a few miles down the road in Ward 6. It's a resource for people that live up in the hills of Ward 4. It's a resource for the people that live in Saugus. You know, Revere Beach is such a special place for so many people in our community because it really is America's first public beach. It's a special place. And I think that programming like this and having difficult conversations around climate change, having conversations around accessibility, and how do we make sure that everyone truly can enjoy our beaches and can get to the water.
Yeah.
You know, it makes a difference. And I'll tell you, seeing that firsthand last summer, I had an intern who had mobility challenges. And he came to one of our meetings that we had and was able to actually go down to the beach in his motorized chair and was able to access the beach and see it, you know, visiting here from a different country in every way that he should be.
Yeah.
And I think for me that was a very eye-opening experience to see that there was no boundary that he couldn't experience on the beach.
Yeah.
And that's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I'm really excited about the work that you're doing.
That we're doing.
Well, we're really lucky to have you at Save the Harbor, but thank you. And I love working with you on the commission and up at the State House. Revere's lucky to have you as such a great community partner.
We have an amazing team at Save the Harbor. Whoever you end up with on the phone or on the email with, we have a truly outstanding team. They're really invested. I can't thank each of them enough for being here and doing what they do.
Awesome. Any last plugs?
Shamrock Splash, March 10th. Apply for a grant and come down to the beach.
Thank you. So this is Jessica Giannino with another edition of View from the Hill. Thank you so much, Chris Mancini from Save the Harbor, for being with us today and talking a little bit about what you do with Save the Harbor and everything you do for the city of Revere and Revere Beach. We're so lucky to have you.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you.